Welcome to the Wyred Insights podcast, where we talk to professionals, creatives, and business owners about their experiences, what they've learned along their journey so far, what inspires them, and why.
Welcome, Andrew Horton, to the Wyred Insights podcast. It's our first one, so glad to have you.
Thank you.
So our topic today, we're going to be talking a little bit more on the tech side. It's going to be about WordPress or content management systems like Joomla and WordPress or others, Squarespace and stuff, versus custom code, building a website from scratch, and what's the differences, what's good about certain parts of it, bad about the other parts, and just get into a little bit of the conversation and see where it takes us. So
Cool, yeah, sounds good.
all right, so what's your first, thoughts on this whole scenario? I mean, what's your preference? If I was like, all right, Andrew, I want a new website, I got this much money, what would you recommend me doing?
So I think the thing about WordPress and coding, I think it all really comes down to time. I think me, as with everyone else, obviously I know HTML and I know CSS, and I'm pretty skilled in both, so I can build pretty cool sites, but the thing is, when you code by yourself, it takes a lot longer. And whereas WordPress, you have a theme, and usually you start off with a template that's already built for you, so that allows you to build sites way faster. So I think time is definitely the biggest factor when you're building sites like that. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a great point. Because I mean, it's so easy with WordPress. I shouldn't say so easy because not everyone can do it, I guess. But most people, the general public, can really kind of go into WordPress and figure out, okay, this is where you insert text, this is where you insert an image, stuff like that, especially if there's a page builder on the end of it or something like that. So the amount of time it would save maybe a client especially, it's easy for them to maybe go in and switch it. It's not a huge learning curve, whereas if they had to code their own website and do it themselves, it'd be crazy, or they would spend $60 an hour plus to get it, edited by their web developer or whatever it
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I think, obviously the biggest thing about WordPress one of the biggest things is that back-end system. So like you said, if they need to go in and change a phone number or change someone's name or an email address, if it was built on code, they'd have to go into the code itself and change it, and then that's also time consuming, and usually they probably wouldn't know how to do it, so they'd have to contact a developer and pay them to do it. So yeah, that back-end system is really nice, especially for sites that are built around a blog.
Right.
That's also a really cool thing that they can do. They can go in and edit blog posts or post new ones, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it also saves time and resources for the agency too, because when someone comes to us and they say, we need our phone number changed on their website, I'm like, yo, easy, just log in and do it. If they're using WordPress. But if we had made them a custom site, it's like, oh, shit, okay.
Yeah.
You got to go in there and talk to your developer, tell them what they need, make sure it gets done, and then get back to the client. It's kind of like the middleman for no reason, where now WordPress kind of does that for us, which is, I think, its greatest value. It saves the client and the agency time and money, and what did they say? Like a good 15 to 30% or something of websites out there are on WordPress.
I think it powers like more than 25% of the web, which is crazy.
That's a huge number to think about if you break that down,
Yeah.
But what's let's talk about the other side for a minute, custom code and building that site from scratch, the really good, deep understanding. I mean, coming from the code basics, how much of a different, depending on the WordPress theme, obviously, and some other factors, clean code could be really the only, and just pure custom can really be the only way to make sure everything goes as planned, with no complications, no overrides, nothing like that, no switcheroos or unfamiliar, code base or anything like that. What do you see? What's the best time to use custom code over WordPress in your opinion?
I think for me, the first thing I think about again is time, obviously. But besides time, if you have more time on a project and it's a really big project, coding allows you to do whatever you want. So when you're working in WordPress, you do have a lot of options when it comes to themes and plugins and stuff like that. But
and you can add your own custom CSS and
yeah, you can.
Stuff,
That's true.
and
That's
PHP
true.
even, right?
But you're still kind of confined to what the theme has or what that plugin is able to do. Whereas with
Sure, it's
code, you
platform.
can literally do anything. The possibilities are endless.
Right.
So yeah, code allows you to do a lot more custom things.
And one thing that I found out personally is, you know, we have a WordPress site and it's super freaking slow because of the theme.
Yep.
And like some developers it's like, you know, I come from the design side, so when I'm looking at themes, I'm like, this is super pretty, I want it. But then when you actually look at the code base, and I do have, you know, understanding of code as well. I've built some applications, web applications and stuff like that, but when I look at the code, I was like, this is a mess. Like, it's garbage, you know, and
exactly.
it's got 17,000 extra files we don't need, and like all this other crap, and I'm just like, this is a nightmare. I don't know how long we could do that. So
Yeah.
now it's like looking into newer themes, quicker, like has to load in half a second, all that stuff. And we have found it. It's very JavaScript heavy, but we have found that. But do you think, like for an agency potentially who is working with tech and entrepreneurs and in this industry, do you think it has more benefit? Like, is there a lot of people like me out there source coding, like especially maybe in your age realm, or like, you know, your friends who are developers maybe, or people who are also in the industry? Is that something that people do besides me? Like, am I the only one that source codes every website I look at? Like,
Yeah.
is that just me? I
Right.
don't know.
Right. And I think that all depends on your audience. If you're building like a very tech-heavy site targeted for people who know about tech and know how to code and stuff like that, maybe it's more beneficial to do a hard-coded site. But
Because you know why, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but why I bring it up is because, you know, sometimes we'll source code a site and you'll say, do you want to work for blah, blah, blah? Company XYZ?
Yeah.
And that to me
That
is
is
like
kinda
really cool. I'm like,
yeah,
oh wow.
it'll pop up if you look in the JavaScript console.
It's
it'll
like
be
they know
hey.
people are looking. So to
Exactly,
me it's like,
yeah.
all right, they've obviously had precaution. They've expected that to happen, so why? Like, there's obviously a need for it, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, go ahead and talk about what you were saying though, with the fact about you know, other people looking at it in your audience and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the audience is definitely really important. And for me personally, like, when I go to a site that I really like, the first thing I do is look at the source code and see if it's WordPress or Squarespace. And when I see if a site's really good and it's not using one of those, that really impresses me. It shows that they really, really took their time on it.
Right. Yeah, because that's like, wow, you seriously did this all by hand. Like,
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
definitely something to brag about if you have a well-made site that's responsive, looks good on every freaking device, on every browser, even Windows is freaking, you know, what's it called? Internet Explorer, I should say, and all that stuff. So it's definitely important, I think, and that's where, like, a big developer is going to stand out if I look at your code and it's just,
Exactly.
if you could do that, it's like, wow,
Exactly.
that's talented.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, in the business side of things, I mean, WordPress has saved my ass a million times with clients and just getting the job done in the sense. I mean, it costs us way less to have a WordPress template sort of ready to go and then customizing that versus, you know, building it from scratch. Like we talked about the time. I mean, paying employees to do the time of that is going to be massive. I mean, I think clients honestly don't know how much work goes into coding custom websites.
Even just a simple page, you have to make sure that it's responsive and the images and all that stuff. So
they'll be like, it's 3 pages. I could do that in 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, because everything's already made for you. But
yeah.
if you go
Yeah.
like, you know, on a regular browser with nothing but code, I mean, it's gonna take a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes to a point where, like, I'm sure most web developers, they can make a simple one-pager fast, and that's great, but you shouldn't have to go in and code a one-pager every single time. Like, there are so many options that WordPress gives you,
Right.
and it's way faster. The client gets their website faster, so yeah.
Totally. No, I agree with you. So I mean, I guess the question is do you think WordPress is like cheating? I mean, that's one thing that I know we've talked about before.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of developers would really say that.
Yeah.
You know, because in a way, I get what they're saying, but I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
That's a really good question. When I first started learning HTML and CSS and actually started working on projects, I totally thought WordPress was cheating. I was like, this is lame. It's totally a shortcut.
Right.
It's cheap. But the more that I've used it, it's kind of like, why not? You know, it's like the tools are there, and if you're doing a simple site, I think it's totally worth it. Like.
So that you're saying the time and the head start that it gives you basically is worth sacrificing the pureness of of code base that's very clean in your own.
Yeah, especially we've been researching themes that load a lot faster, and they're great.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a problem personally with some really nice word if it's done right, and the code. Like, I mean, we found one that's just such a fraction of the freaking first one that we've had.
Yeah.
And sure, it doesn't come with nearly as many assets, but I think if you're an experienced developer, that's okay. And it's actually a better thing because it forces you to kind of stick to your roots a little bit. Use the benefits of WordPress where you get the, here's a text box, here's a picture, change it out client, go do what you want to do. But it also gives you the flexibility to be like, yeah, I want to add my own plugin, maybe do this. I understand the code a lot easier. I can make, if I want the images swapped or add CSS really quickly, I mean, as an experienced developer, someone should be able to just go in and do it. And it kind of, I guess, takes out the cheating part. Not totally. I mean, it's almost like a cheat sheet in a way. It's like,
yeah, kind of.
Not fully cheating, but you're getting a lot of help.
It's a nice head start.
It's holding your hand a tiny bit. But,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's nice. I mean, the responsiveness, especially the time that it cuts for you, like taking a website from scratch and making it responsive from scratch is like one of the most time-consuming fucking things.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. Yeah.
So that's probably for me, CSS-wise, code-wise, that's the biggest thing that WordPress themes do for me as far as an automation process and getting something ahead of the game or just quicker,
Yeah, out of the box it's responsive and you just have to worry about the content and like the pictures and stuff like that. So
yeah, and in that case, like once you have a theme that works for you and you've done your edits, you save copies of that and make sure it's up to date with the newest WordPress version, and you can knock out sites in days. Like it's nothing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and if you're doing like a simple page for like a restaurant or something,
right?
No one's gonna
barber shop, nail salon,
exactly.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, local businesses. Most people aren't going to be source coding, looking at how clean the code is or anything. As long as the site loads fast and it looks good, I think WordPress is a great tool for that. Yeah.
Yeah, way to go.
Yeah.
All right, so just to follow up and finish up here with Andrew. So, I mean, you said yourself you used to think it was cheating, and now you've used it before, you've worked in it, so you understand the uses, and you've had. You understand as far as the business side, especially why it's so popular and widely used across the web. So that's really cool. I think we're on the same page about most things. I'm sure people would disagray with us. But if you
purists.
do, go ahead and on our Facebook page and let us know, or on Instagram, and we'll settle it there if we have to. But I think overall, in my opinion, WordPress is a great way to kind of just get a jump start on things. And just to confirm, we're talking about WordPress.org, where you install it on your server, you have maybe a cPanel sort of thing going on or whatever, you have your own databases that you hook up to it. It's not WordPress.com where you just sign up and go. I mean, there are sites what's your opinion on places like Squarespace and like Weebly and Wix.com? Like, what is that to you?
Yeah. I think those sites have a place for sure.
Yeah.
If you're a photographer or you're a YouTuber and you want to have a site, it's not your biggest concern probably, and you don't want to have to take the time to learn how to code. It's not what you're interested in. You don't want to pay someone. So I think Squarespace and Wix and tools like that, they definitely have their place.
Right. Yeah, because for the average person who's not in the development space or doesn't have thousands of dollars to blow on a website or whatever, they just want to up and running. Squarespace is like $5. You just fucking go on there, load up your domain, and it's good to go. So to me, it's like for my grandpa wanting to sell his crafts or whatever, I mean, that's great.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, but I don't recommend it for any business really to do. Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's a little bit too, I guess, I don't know what to call it. It's like
artificial maybe, or
it's just too cookie cutter, and it seems like you don't care enough about your business or brand to really give it more. I mean, unless you get a not to say that you can't make Squarespace sites look amazing. If you have a Squarespace site and you have a developer who understands CSS, understands how to work with it, just like WordPress, you can do a lot of good stuff with Wix, Weebly, and WordPress or Squarespace. But as far as like really making the code custom, it's very limiting, and I don't think I would recommend it for like, you know, real development.
yeah, exactly. Or like any real big business, I'd say.
Yeah, and I don't want, like I said, I don't want to dismiss its use because I think it's very needed. I think there is a need for that out there.
For sure.
But it is also kind of like, it's just like when you go to a website, you know it's Squarespace, you know? It's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
You see that little black box in the corner, you're like, yep.
Yeah, it's like, they just kind of threw it together in 20 minutes.
Right, to me, I'm like, okay, that they don't care as much about their image as the other company who has an amazing website. I can contact them right through there. It's like, you know, so. But yeah, cool. I think that's a good conversation. I think listeners, I should say, both, are going to enjoy this conversation. Thanks for hanging out and doing the first one with us. That was
cool. That was good. That was
Yeah.
That was a good start.
Awesome. All right.